delicate sex, women have always been seen as caring, givers of life, not takers of one. Women in war have never had anything in common. As a female and being deployed, I faced many situations in which I had to deal with going on mission with the males. I had to find a way to relieve myself while they were just peeing in bottles or peeing out the door while the vehicle was moving, or having to clean myself after 3 days of not showering without the guys seeing. These are just some of the things I had to go through being in a mixed gender unit. When Defense Secretary Leon Pineda lifted the ban on females being able to join ground combat units like artillery, infantry, armor, combat engineers, special forces, I could not believe it. We have integrated women into combat effectively and slowly, like programs like FET, Female Engagement Teams, which are attached to special units, and they get to go in and do special forces operations, but just more carefully. Today I want to bring awareness as to why females should not be in ground combat units. We will look at how morale and cohesion, physical ability, and military readiness is affected when women are integrated into these units. Let's face it, women are not built the same like guys. According to an article titled "Difference Between Male and Female Structure," the following is stated: men are over 30% stronger than females, especially in the upper body. Although feminists cannot face this fact, females simply do not have the strength or endurance necessary to be, for example, effective combat soldiers. Every 6 months, we have to take an Army physical test, which tests us in push-ups, sit-ups, and a 2-mile run. And your age is what determines what your requirements are to score in the 60th percentile. For a female my age, 23, I have 18 minutes and 54 seconds to run 2 miles. That's equivalent to a 47 to 51-year-old to score in the 60th percentile. In the same article, Difference Between Male and Females, I found the following statement: when a man is jogging at about 50% of his capacity, women need to run at 70% of their capacity to keep up with them. So maybe you want to be part of the Marine Special Operations. You will need to swim 300 meters in a utility shirt and trousers, tread water for 10 minutes, and hike 12 miles with a 45-pound load under 4 hours. In an article titled "Women Do Not Belong in Infantry," Bill Connor goes to state, last year, 2 hand-picked Marine women were allowed into the Marine Infantry Officers Course, and both failed, one with sustaining multiple stress fracture injuries due to the punishment of the body. Officials say that the standards will not change for these special operations unit, but the lack of women being able to physically pass these strenuous tests leads to not having enough women to integrate into these infantry units, hindering the morale and cohesion of a unit. Morale and cohesion is very important to have, especially in combat. You can say cohesion is like the chemistry of the unit, and you need chemistry in your unit, especially when you spend a lot of time with these people. In a book titled "Moving Beyond G.I. Jane, Women in the U.S. Military," the author Sarah L. Zeiger states, women automatically alter the chemistry in all male units. As soon as the first soldier acts protective, defensive, flirtatious, or resentful, he initiates a dynamic which causes others to do the same, to do the opposite, or to do something all in the same name of setting themselves apart. While I was deployed, I became really good friends with one of the males, and on a mission, being one of the only females, he was very protective. He would come to me and make sure I was okay when we would stop at different bobs. He would walk me to the latrine or walk me to the chow hall. He was just being very protective of me. Another area where cohesion problems can develop is the lack of privacy. On a mission where I was the only female, again, the convoy commander had reserved a bunk for me in the female tents, and the female tents were halfway across the fob. So that meant that put like the burden on one of the males have to come to me and pass word, and word changed like every 10 minutes. So I went to the commander and I asked him if I could stay with the males, and he let me know that they smelled and that they cursed, and if I was okay with that, then I was more than welcome to stay with the males, and he actually preferred if I stayed with the males. So that night, I felt like I was breaking into like some type of brotherhood. It was the craziest thing ever. They swore they really did smell. I mean, we would go days without showering, and some of those guys' feet smell really bad. They talked about their moms. They talked about each other's girlfriends, sisters, you know, stupid guy stuff. And they walk around with their shirts and whatnot. And I, being the only female in this male tent, I had to find a way to like cleanse myself with these baby wipes. So I'd get into my sleeping bag, wipe myself down, change my underwear, and then put my uniform back on just so I, you know, would smell decent. So, with the lack of privacy, it is really difficult to integrate women into these special operation units. In Boykin, Common Sense, Emotion, and Women in Combat, Lieutenant General Boykin states, leaders of these units must focus like a laser on keeping these soldiers alive and defeating the enemy. It is unreasonable to encumber them with the additional burden of worrying about they provide privacy for the few women under their command during stressful and very dangerous operations. The lack of privacy and other female needs can hinder military readiness for a unit. Women lose more duty time due to medical issues, including pregnancy. Pregnancy can affect the deployability of a unit as well as making them understaffed. A poll of military personnel was taken by the University of Connecticut that showed that 56% of women in mixed gender units became pregnant just prior or during their duty in Desert Storm. In the same poll, 46 claimed that the pregnancies had a negative impact on the unit's readiness. Let me just say, when there's a will, there's a way. You might think it's difficult to get pregnant on a deployment. Trust me, it's not. We have plenty of time to do stupid stuff, and a female actually got pregnant on my deployment. It was 2 months before we headed back to the States, and I guess she just realized she hadn't gotten her period. So she went and bought a little pregnancy test at the little store we had, and sure enough, she was pregnant. She was sent home. It just put a burden on our supply sergeant, having to find that third body to help them pack everything, keep accountability of everything. It was just a stressful situation with her having to be sent home early. Another issue with military readiness is the amount of sexual harassment in mixed gender units. In the article titled Women in Combat Units, Could it reduce sexual assault in the military? Author Anna Mulray states, critics of women in combat express concerns, however, that the move could actually make women more vulnerable to sexual assault by putting them in closer contact with males where there is little privacy. You need to be mentally and physically tough to be in such close combat situations. That's why only the elite make it. We will be placing a tremendous burden on commanders trying to defeat the enemy and sexual tensions brought with women in infantry. Is it really necessary to put our nation's deadliest weapon at jeopardy just to meet a social complication? Like NFL teams, they want the best for their teams. So shouldn't we want the best for our elite units? Physical ability, morale and cohesion, and military readiness can be hindered when integrating females into ground combat units. Women have served bravely in branches and positions open to their physical abilities. It is obvious that we, women, weren't built for a job like the Navy SEALs. Let's take a stand for what is true and for the women and to protect the women from having to face these decisions later in life. That's it.
What was your time?
9:56.
Good. You had the longest. You were. Right? Thanks. Appreciate it. It was a 10:04. That's okay. It's 8 to 10. Yeah, I've had questions.
Nadia, what did you think?
I really liked your topic. I liked how you structured your whole speech. I liked the main points that you said about how the cohesion, about how it affects, like having women there affects the readiness of your group, and I really just thought, like, I liked the stuff you picked because it fit really well together. The way you transitioned was perfect to me because you would make a statement closing off the last subject, but then it would tie into whatever was next. So your transitions were really well. I liked all the information. I liked how you made it a little bit funny. The only thing I would have problem with or like didn't really understand was you didn't explain what some words were. Like Bob, I was like, okay, what's that? And then just certain other little things like places or certain words I didn't understand because it's like army words, I guess. But other than that, I really liked your speech. I thought it was good and it was a different topic, so I liked it.
Nadia gets gold star for the day. She picked out several of the things I was going to talk about. I like the transitions. I do think you need to define some of those terms sometimes because people aren't going to be familiar with what you're talking about. I like the fact that you use personal experiences and sometimes in a humorous way to pull us into it, but you also do an excellent job of adding research into the presentation. You're quoting experts who are talking about these kinds of things, and you had some statistical information about the pregnancies, for instance. So there's some good information there. A couple of examples of the women in the Marine Officers Training Program that couldn't make it through the program. So I thought that you did a pretty good job building your argument. It's very well organized and easy to follow. On the presentation issues, there are maybe just a couple of things to be concerned about. Whenever you're talking to us, you do a good job. You know, it's just you talking about your experience. You're fine. When you go to those notes, though, you need to kind of practice reading the notes a little bit more because it just becomes so odd. You're holding them up in front of you. You're reading them. It's like you turn into a different person when you do that, and it takes you out of the speech. So you don't do it a lot. You do it only when you need that information, which is good. But when you do it, you're doing it in the most obvious way that there is, and so you kind of need to adjust a little bit out of that. All right. Good deal. Thank you. What did I just do?